It is my pleasure to address all the participants of the 2017 Malta Model United Nations Conference. It is through events such as this conference that the Malta Model UN Society is bringing to life the spirit of the United Nations in the context of a multilateral approach. Therefore, let me begin by congratulating this society for bringing together so many participants and for sharing its ethos of inclusion and empowerment. I must commend the collaborations that this conference manages to create among many young people from all walks of life. It is evidence of the benefits that working, learning, and growing brings to all those who participate. Your involvement brings to the fore an encouraging environment for active participation. You are investing in your personal development and developing your leadership potentials. You are giving a practical example to all members of our society. Your choice of theme for this session of the Malta Model United Nations Conference 2017, focusing on open border policies, is to be commended. Deciding to focus on such a complex and intriguing theme to explore the contentious issue of open border policies will help to create an important dialogue across borders. Creating opportunities for dialogue is especially necessary at this important juncture in the history of our world. This is especially important when there are so many nations that are currently facing social and political tensions and uncertainty. Unfortunately, the world today is witnessing an increase in far-right rhetoric and aggressive populism, even in long-established democracies and liberal nations. This situation is further compounded within the context of migration. We must admit that there is a worrying discourse within many of our communities. Populists are trying to normalize their dangerous attitude, which not only opposes processes of migration, but is openly racist. However, we must all be aware that migration has been part of our human heritage since the beginning of humanity. Many of the modern causes of migration are due to factors which include precarity, poverty, effects of climate change, and armed conflicts. These factors are pushing more and more people to make the difficult decision to undertake dangerous journeys in search of a better life. While the international community should certainly unite and come together to ensure proper investment strategies to address poverty and precarity, migration must be also seen as an opportunity. There are studies which clearly indicate, such as a recent report from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, that migrants account for some 70% of the increase in the European workforce over the past decade. This fact shows that migrants are effective net contributors to our countries in terms of taxes and social contributions, rather than being perceived as net receivers of benefits. Migration is also boosting our working-age demographic, particularly in the light of Europe's aging population and unsustainable welfare and pension systems. Therefore, demagogues who call for the creation of borders and closing down potential connections in response to the perceived threat of migration are advocating a strategy which is not only socially dangerous, but also economically damaging. This shows us that we cannot only implement economic globalization and boast that we are one global village. We cannot be afraid to be one humanity, united in a global social solidarity approach that embraces our social as well as our economic realities. We cannot allow the promotion of one-dimensional perspective to migration. I do believe that working together across the borders of our nations is only necessary, but it is the only way forward to face some of the 21st century's major challenges. Many of the important issues we face today are global in their reach. These include questions of economic interdependency, the challenges of globalization, transnational crime, and strategies for the promotion of global peace and protection. Such challenges can only be addressed with a united approach. Meeting these challenges requires that we all work together to transcend our borders as one human family. First of all, we need to address the harmful effects of climate change with a holistic and united approach. For this reason, it is essential that the international community works together in synergy, while each and every one of us shoulders our responsibilities. We must act now to do more to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We must make the necessary progress towards a low-carbon energy future. The international community must find innovative ways for our nations to produce and to use clean and renewable energy. For this reason, our holistic endeavors and collaborations are important to put into fruition the effects of the United Nations Agenda 2030 and its 17 Sustainable Development Goals. We all know what must be done, as these Sustainable Development Goals offer us a global strategy which promotes shared prosperity for the building of peace and a global social solidarity approach. As participants in this conference, I believe that you have a greater responsibility than most. I recommend that you put more focus on the effect that the United Nations agenda can have within our communities and across our world. It is so important that we focus our attention on the values which promote a universal culture of respect to ensure that the intrinsic dignity of each and every individual is celebrated. Let me encourage you to keep promoting processes of dialogue, to keep listening to the voices of all members of our communities, and to respect everybody as equal collaborators. We must value the precious identities of all people, especially those who are inhabiting vulnerable spaces at the boundaries and in the borders of our nations. Let me conclude my remarks with a powerful quotation from Sultan bin Salman Al Saud, the first Muslim astronaut, who said, and I quote, "On our first day in space, we all pointed to our countries. On the third or fourth day, we were pointing to our continents. By the fifth day, we were aware of only one Earth." Let me encourage you, always and in all ways, to focus on the ways that unite us as one human family. May you keep highlighting the universal values of the United Nations, which are rooted in our shared ideals of peace, solidarity, and well-being. I am confident that as one human family, we can build a global culture of meaningful dialogue and active cooperation for the benefit of all, now and always.